This is Roger Simon for Pajamas Media. I'm here at the Citadel campus in Charleston, South Carolina, for our first War on Terror conversation with a leading presidential candidate. These War on Terror conversations are a new program to be conducted by Pajamas Media, in which we will be interviewing the leading candidates on the subject of the War on Terror only, because we believe that that is the issue that trumps all others in this campaign. Senator Fred Thompson was here today giving a speech at the Citadel, and we had a chance to sit down with him. Let's have a look. Thank you for joining us, Senator Thompson.
Thank you, Roger. Good to be with you.
Okay, now let me ask you, I'm going to go straight off the bat by lying, by asking a question.
You've been talking to too many politicians.
I must have. It's about that much off topic. Mm-hmm. But you and I share a background in show business. You as an actor and I as a writer. I'd just like your view on why you think that all these War on Terror, Iraq movies that Hollywood has been producing lately have gone right into the box office bottom.
Well, because they're probably bad movies. I think that there are a lot of people who are kind of tired over the years of seeing our country as the bad guy. As a matter of fact, you could say that about law enforcement officers, FBI and CIA. I don't know how long it's been since you've seen a good CIA officer or agent, a good one portrayed. They're always the villains and so forth. And it makes for interesting stuff sometimes if well done, but over and over and over again over a period of years gets a little boring. And, you know, people are a little bit tired of seeing all the bad news. And then when good news comes, you can't read about it in the paper. And then you go to the movies, and sure enough, it's all the bad news again.
We just caught part of your speech. You mentioned will several times in relation to the American people, which is something we have not really fully engaged in. What can we do to recapture the will of the American people?
Yeah. I was referring to a passage in Andrew Roberts' book, The History of the English-Speaking People since the 1900s. And he points out that the will of a people is at least as important as its military might in prevailing in a conflict. I really believe that that's true. You got to understand you're going to have some bad times. You're going to have some difficulties. You're going to have to understand the need for doing what you're doing and the need for perseverance. That's one of the most important jobs, I think, nowadays of the President of the United States, of having communication with the American people and explaining those things. Here's what we're doing. Here's why we're doing it.
A lot of us have felt that the Bush administration has failed in that regard. That's been one of their, public relations has been one of their weak spots. How would a Thompson administration recapture that, recapture the will of the people?
Well, you got to be you got to be honest with the people and bring them along for the ride. You can't just say everything's fine and don't pay much attention to it and go on about your business on a daily basis and then be able to sustain yourself in the bad times. You got to be honest up front. What we're going to have to do is face up to the need to make a substantial commitment physically in this country. Rearrange some of our priorities and understand we're going to have to rebuild our military. We're going to have to modernize our military. We're going to have to replace our equipment and do all those things necessary for the long haul. You can't do it on the cheap. You can't do guns and butter. In past conflicts in our nation has faced difficulties. Non-defense spending has gone down substantially. Not this time. We're still operating on the assumption that the conflict is all has to do with Iraq and Afghanistan, and once that's over, it'll all be over, which I think a lot of people still think. And secondly, we're not going to have to make additional financial commitments to it. Both of those things are erroneous, and a president has to communicate the truth to the American people on the front end, because you can't expect, if you don't have the American people on the front end of this, you're not going to have them on the back end.
Senator, as far as engaging a specific aspect of the American people, what can we do to get the American Muslim community to buy into this war and participate more fully than they seem to be at this point. Right now we have CARE, Council on American Islamic Relations, that has pretty much seemed to have thrust itself as a group representing all of them, and I believe their numbers are less than 3,000. What can we do to engage the rest of the American Muslim community?
I think sometimes we have a little bit difficulty in choosing among our friends. There are some who give lip service and not only do not come through with moderation and preaching moderation, they go in the other direction sometimes, and we need to again be able to call a spade. But for those who are standing up and really putting their lives in jeopardy is what they're doing, we need to support them in every way possible. We need to honor them. They need to know that they have our support. Now, having said that, I would think the average Muslim and the moderate Muslims, the ones around the country, around the world, who live in moderate societies, which is most of them, would be the most outraged about what they see. They shouldn't need constant bolstering to come out against the slaughter and wholesale slaughter of innocent people, and trying to bring down Western civilization, which they are now part of and enjoying along with us. So I think they need to recognize the commitment that they need to make, and the fact that we're dealing with a small part of radical Muslim that came originally out of Saudi Arabia, and because of Saudi oil, it's been propagated around the world, and now has a lot of adherents and a lot of young, ignorant people who are willing to sacrifice their lives for these people, and it's grown and grown and grown. We should not label all of Muslim with them, but right-thinking Muslims should be willing to label them for what they are.
I know you were on Meet the Press discussing the problem with the 12th Imam and all this eschatology that aspects of the Iranian government preach and seem to believe in. And now we know Larijani, their negotiator, their nuclear negotiator, has been either resigned or kicked out or both, and replaced by another extremist who has never even visited the West and is a member of the Revolutionary Guard and all that. Yeah. How do we go about negotiating with a government that has this kind of very strange belief system?
First of all, you have to realize what you're dealing with and who you're dealing with. I'm not sure there's an answer to your question. Our inclination, my inclination, is always to talk to anybody if there's any chance of reaching some kind of an agreement or reconciliation. But this is not